Okay, we good? We're straight. We're not sideways. Excellent. Um, well, thankfully, that will never get saved to Facebook or YouTube or anything. So that was a little anomaly that happened, but you don't know. You don't care. It doesn't matter. Not important. So I'm the only one here talking to myself. As I've said before, sometimes it's important to speak to the most intelligent person in the room. So here I am talking to myself. It's all good. No, I'm sure that by the time other people start logging in, I'll have something interesting to say. So thanks for joining us for our live. Oh, here, see, we have one person now. Oh, that might be Nelson. Yeah. Oh, never mind. Thank you for joining us again. For watching us afterwards on YouTube or wherever you're watching us. YouTube probably. Thanks for joining us for another SilviaFindings live stream. Cataloging of our current products is the series that we're working on right now. I think this is episode 50, right? Isn't that right? It's episode 50. I was supposed to dance or do have cake or something or a party. Maybe we'll do that for 100th episode. But 50. So we're doing almost a year. I guess in 2 weeks it'll be a year. Oh, we might have missed some weeks here and there during the coronavirus and that lockdown. But so whatever. I'm pretty sure this is a 50th episode. Anyway, whatever. Not that it matters, because you're not here to talk about how long we've been doing this or what kind of celebrations we have planned for the 50th. None, just saying. But thanks for joining us again. You want to have a look at the products. I think we're going to finish the rings today, which is pretty exciting. That means this will be our last episode where we're doing rings. Next week, we will continue on the cataloging process. See that Canadian? Process instead of process. We'll be continuing the cataloging process with earrings, the earring settings. Which is exciting because we have a lot of really cool really cool everything. I can't think of anything. There's one ring that we have that I don't think is cool, but only one out of the hundreds. And I talked about it last week. It's just one of those head scratchers where, okay, I'm sure somebody will love it. And when I looked up the inventory, we have sold a bunch of them. So, there's something for everyone. Just saying. But here I am. Let's start this today by trashing one of our products. If you share this video, as always, we'll know, but let us know anyway, and we'll send you one of these polishing cloths, right? If you place an order during the live stream, you'll get free shipping on regular mail shipments. 10% off the regularly priced item, so that doesn't count against wholesale purchases. And when I'm going through all the items, I'm going to give you two prices, a retail price and the wholesale price. Again, just, in case you're unaware or haven't heard it for the 100th time, the wholesale price is based on volume. So as long as you spend $150 of any items, it doesn't have to be all of one item. It could be, mix and match. $150 at the wholesale level, you can get the wholesale price. So if the wholesale price is, if the wholesale price is $10, you'd have to buy 15 of those items, or 15 $10 items to get the $150. Does that make sense? Even if the retail price is a thing. And I know that sometimes, if you're ordering stuff, it actually happened just yesterday here in the showroom. A customer was ordering stuff and she had like $180 of retail thing, and with taxes and everything, it came to $191. And explained, look, if you just buy $14 more worth of stuff, you'll be able to pay less. And it was like, anyway, it all worked out. She was happy, we were happy. Everybody's happy. How can you not be happy doing this, right? It's not like you're going to the dentist or the Department of Motor Vehicles to get your license renewed. This is everybody who comes here is having fun, because it's just an awesome thing. Making jewelry, feeding your creative spirit. Anyway, enough of me going on. I'm not going to talk about shipping, because it's just bad everywhere. What else do I normally talk about that I'm not talking about today? I guess that's it. Yeah, custom, just so much custom stuff happening these days. So we love your custom requests. Please send us anything you want. We can do it. All right, let's start on with the rings. Our first item today, MTR 096, with a retail price of $39.64 and a wholesale price of $27.74. This is a gorgeous, with like the sort of the faux beaten bright cut, setting all the way up on all the shoulder of the band. And then the gallery section has this lovely sort of intertwined ovals that are actually, again, set with CZs all the way throughout it, and that lovely cup and peg down on the bottom of it. Again, I didn't mention last week we started what we call the pearl rings, and even though these are all rings that are all ostensibly designed to house pearls, you could put any stone in there that's half drilled, right? Using a good two-part epoxy thing. So this one, boy, this begs to have a nice big fat 20 millimeter Tahitian pearl in there or something, doesn't it? It's like really super grand, really nice, really gorgeous, as opposed to this one, which is no less grand, MTR 362, with a retail price of $41.92 and a wholesale price of $27.95. This typical split band, right, up to the shoulders, right? Your nice simple gallery, but then it's got that super wide halo with that cubic zirconias all the way through there, and that it's not a cup and peg; it's just a bar and a peg for the pearl to glue onto. You'd probably want to fill that space, and I don't have a caliper with me. I should get one. Oh no, dead air. So let's just see that. 8, so that's about 8.5 millimeters wide. So you probably want a good 8 or 9 millimeter pearl, maybe 10 millimeter, just to fill that space. That would look super. Here's another much more plain MTR 291 with a retail price of $14.05 and a wholesale price of $8.79. This is a, again, nice little simple, pretty wide band, right? But it's got those lovely, side shoulder holders. I don't know. So the width on that, probably maximum size pearl you want to get in there is like 8.5 millimeters, right up to the edge. You can maybe get a little bit taller because of the curvature of the pearl. So maybe 8 or 9 or 10 millimeter at the most. Something definitely to go down there, sort of thing. Now all these pegs, they're made longer than you probably strictly need them to be. So if you got your pearl that's half drilled, or your stone that's half drilled, you can put a piece of wire into there, mark off how long it is, and then cut these posts down to just a little bit less than that. So when you put the two-part epoxy on the peg and you put the pearl on there, there's a little void space between the end of the post and the end of the hole in the pearl, if that makes sense. And it doesn't seem important, but that little gap is important. MTR 337 with a retail price of $27 and a wholesale price of $20.25. This, again, lovely 2 rows of cubic zirconias up the shoulders on the ends of that, with that nice big cup set with cubic zirconias all the way through the top, and just a simple cup and peg. Now this is another one where you could just cut the peg off you know, sand that down at the bottom and then fill that with epoxy resin. You know, you can maybe glue a real intricate pattern, you know, paper down on the inside and then fill that with clear resin. And then if you just kind of slightly overfill it, it'll make a little dome effect, making it, you know, magnified. I think. I don't know if you've ever seen that effect. Very cool. It might seem like a weird ring to put that kind of stuff in, but it's just a very cool effect. And I don't know why more people don't do that. MTR 293 with a retail price of $14.59 and a wholesale price of $9.13. This lovely split shank with a kind of like little swirly patterns, flourish patterns. That mirror image with the standard cup and peg at the top of that, right? For a good, I don't know, 6 or 8 millimeter pearl would get on there. Very lovely. Here's one of the few. We've got a couple, but not many, that fits more than one stone. MTR 100 with a retail price of $22.72 and a wholesale price of $15.23. Now this one is it's not soldered at the top, so even though these come sized, you can there's a little bit of play there, you know. So sometimes you have customers who are like, well, I need a 6.5 because in the morning my fingers are size 6, but in the afternoon my fingers are size 6.5 or 6 3/4. You know, this will fine. This will stretch with those kind of things. It's just a simple low dome band with a cup and peg soldered to each size. You put a couple of good, I don't know, 4 or 6 millimeter pearls on there, maybe 8. Very simple, very elegant. Here's another very similar one, MTR 073 with a retail price of $43.13 and a wholesale price of $28.36. Right, except this one is soldered inside. So, you know, the whole sizes that we have, you know, if somebody has a ring that has to be bigger in the afternoon, well, you just have to live with it, as you do with most rings. So this is just a very simple, you know, kind of crossover style, right, with the 2 cups and pegs, that the cubic zirconia sort of like mini pave style. Not really pave, not enough stones to really be pave, but you get the idea. Our next item, MTR 077 with a retail price of $31.94 and a wholesale price of $20.37. This is just a very simple, elegant band, right, with a simple gallery frame and a halo on the outside of that. Let's see how wide that is, because, you know, ideally you'll want a pearl that will cover that whole bar. So that's about 10.8, so like 11, something like a 11 or 12 millimeter pearl would be awesome for that. Well, MTR 108 with a retail price of $20.03 and a wholesale price of $13.88. This another very cool band. I love how that tapers all the way up to the top. Only to find a cup and peg there, right? Now, I don't think you get a pearl that with those indentations will actually do anything, but that is about 8.5 millimeters. So you could probably get like a good 9 millimeter pearl in there, 9 or 10 millimeter pearl. Would look awesome. Again, you know, for these kind of settings, there's always quite a bit of leeway. Although if you want the pearl to fit perfectly, you know, right up against those grooves, so it looks like the band disappears into the pearl. Yeah, you're probably looking at about 9 millimeters or so. 9, maybe 10. Here's another lovely MTR 099 with a retail price of $20.78 and a wholesale price of $14.31. This lovely split shank ring with a plumeria flower. in the top. Again, that super long peg that you probably don't need it to be quite so long, but there it is. You just have to cut that down to match your needs. Or, I don't know, God, this ring is so gorgeous. You could even just cut that peg off and, you know, maybe flush mount a little stone in there, or solder a little, you know, basket setting in there to put a gemstone in there. Why don't we have one like this with a gemstone? That'd be awesome. Very cool. MTR 211 with a retail price of $35.40 and a wholesale price of $26.55. Now this is a chonker, as they call it, is the word we're using these days. Nice, big, simple, you know, but elegant band, you know, tapered up to the top, with that cavity for a pearl. Let's see how big of a pearl you want to get in there. Probably, it'd have to be wider than that. Yeah, 12 millimeter, maybe a 12 millimeter pearl, maybe 11, something. You know, as long as it's not smaller than, how big does that go? That's, as long as it's not smaller than like 9 millimeters, you know, then you won't end up with a gap. It'll fit nice and snugly inside that little cup, that little indentation, which is very cool effect when the pearl is in there. MTR 098 with a retail price of $16.09 and a wholesale price of $11.35. This is another, you know, fairly simple but elegant, you know, band with that just tapered up to the top, and that lovely sort of flowery frame sort of thing. Not really a mirror image, but, and that little flowery cup and peg. Again, the flower, you wouldn't really see it with once the pearl's in there, you know, except from the underside, which nobody looks at that anyway. So, and this, you know, a nice versatile setting like this, you could put something as small as like a 4 or 6 millimeter pearl, all the way up to probably a 10 or 12 millimeter pearl. So again, really versatile setting. You can put lots of different sizes in there. Can't go wrong. MTR 097 with a retail price of $24.10 and a wholesale price of $16.21. This another kind of like, I don't know, is that like a grape leaf or something? I don't know, some leaves with some cubic zirconia rose there all the way around the outside. Very floral, you know, leafy kind of motif, with a nice big cup and peg mounting that is, well, we'll call that 7 millimeters. So again, it's okay if the pearl extends past the edges of that border. So you could probably put something as small as a 7 and as wide as like an 8, maybe a 9 millimeter, right? So we've got a couple millimeters of play with pearls settings, which is totally different from other settings. You know, gemstone settings have to be pretty much exact down to like less than half a millimeter. Usually don't have much play, but on pearls you do have a lot of play. MTR 082 with a retail price of $49.94 and a retail price of $31.78. And just a classic shank, right, with the gallery section, with the ring sort of continues up to hold that gallery section, which is a lovely flower with cubic zirconia all the way around, sort of like a flower-shaped halo. I know that doesn't make sense, but we'll call it that. And that lovely cup and peg inside. Again, super versatile as to what size you could put. You could put something as small as, let's see, if we want something that covers that whole thing, what is that, 8.5. So, I don't know, as small as like a 9 millimeter all the way up to probably 12 millimeters, right? Lots of room there inside that flower. What do we got? MTR 364 with a retail price of $36 and a wholesale price of $22.50. I just love this. This is just one of my favorites. I love how this, because it looks like something that I would have fabricated when I was doing jewelry fabrication, although it's pain in the bum to do this kind of thing in fabrication, because you've got all these rows of that bead and bright cut, or kind of like flush mount settings all the way up around that thing, and it's got that sort of faux twisty wire going around, right? So it's like a split shank. Oh no, one of the stones popped out. Well, you didn't set it. You're not looking at that. We've got this lovely cup and peg mount. This wants a giant stone in there. 9.5. Yeah, so probably, boy, 10 millimeters would be gorgeous in that. Probably not more than that. And I promise when we send you one, it won't have that stone missing. MTR 359 with a retail price of $27.49 and a wholesale price of $17.19. And this is kind of a spiritual cousin to that previous one we were just looking at, right? With that also twisty thing. Although this one, it almost looks like the ring itself is unspooling itself, right? Kind of like twisting apart with all the cubic zirconias set in the surface of that. Just very cool, very, very super cool thing with that cup and peg on there. Again, how you could get away with the stone as small as, this is not the most accurate way to measure that, so as small as 6 and as wide as, what is that, probably 10 millimeters. Yeah, so a lot of options with a pearl like this, and just a very cool pattern, very cool design thing, right? I kind of love that thing. Now, if you're more of a druid type, MTR 375 with a retail price of $28.02 and a wholesale price of $17.55. We got this more lovely organic leaf pattern. It looks like a grape leaf to me, although I don't know why. Right, just lovely leaf pattern with that cup and peg for the pearl in there, and up one side of the shoulder there's a row of cubic zirconias, right? It's only on the one side, not on the other. And as far as pearl size, that probably blocks that from going. I probably wouldn't put anything bigger than like a 6 or 7 millimeter pearl in there, although those would look lovely, just gorgeous. Our next item, MTR 076 with a retail price of $25.07 and a wholesale price of $16.52. This is just classic split shank ring, right? With that cup and peg. Not a cup and peg, just a peg and a bar. Let's see how wide that is. So you're looking, oh boy, 8 millimeters. Right, so you can maybe get away with a little bit smaller, maybe a little bit wider, probably not. I would put an 8 millimeter pearl in there, and it would be stunning. Speaking of stunning, MTR 093 with a retail price of $52.70 and a wholesale price of $32.94. Look at this. Gorgeous. I just love that. Again, 5 petal flower. 4 of the petals have those rays there, right? They're just that silver things. And the one with the pave style setting in the front with a cup and peg. Again, the giant peg probably don't need it to be that big, you know, unless your pearl is massive, at which point you're not going to see the flower anymore. I think I would want to put, this is kind of an understated one, I would put a 6 or 8 millimeter pearl in there. What is that, 7, 8? Yeah, so, you know, as big as 8, you could probably get away with smaller, 7 millimeter or so, because you just want the pearl to be like, you know, the pistils in the center of that, and you don't want to hide too much of the leaves, right? Unlike this one, where, you know, basically, God, whatever size pearl you can get in there, you know, go for it. MTR 091 with a retail price of $26.51 and a wholesale price of $16.56. Again, just another, you know, kind of super interesting, a little bit wider band on that. What's that, like probably 3 or 4 millimeters? 4.5 millimeters. and you know, terminating up at the top with that lovely flower sort of thing, kind of like free form sort of flower. So again, pearl size, you could put everything from boy, let's say as small as 5, yeah, you can do 5 millimeter pearl all the way up to 8 or 9 millimeters even. Probably don't want to go bigger than that. Probably I would say 5 to 8 millimeters is a good range for that. And maybe I'm being a little generous. MTR 079 with a retail price of $27.38 and a wholesale price of $18.33. This is just a classic tapered band with a lovely gallery of you know, rays that come up. A couple of cubic zirconias in there. This is sort of a mirror image because it's thicker on one side and wider on the other. So it gives it almost kind of like a, I don't know, it kind of gives that sense of movement to it. Whenever I see that kind of mirror image stuff, I feel like it's moving. Anyway, and a pretty good cup and peg. So 6 millimeter or so, just guessing. What is that? 6.8. So yeah, 7 millimeter, 8 millimeter pearl. 6 might be too small. So yeah, 7 to 9 millimeters, we'll call that. Thing. And we're all the way on another tray now. MTR 215 with a retail price of $23.57 and a wholesale price of $16.16. This just a simple band with a lovely naked halo. I call it just a smooth circle of silver with cubic zirconias up one side, and the very simple cup and peg in the center of that. Now, you don't want to get a pearl in there that's bigger than 8, we'll call that 8 millimeters, just so you have a little bit of space between the edge of the pearl and the end, because the reason why this is so cool is that once you put the ring on the inside, it's almost like a Dr. Manhattan, you know? Looks like a, golly, I can't remember which atom. A neutron atom? Hydrogen atom. MTR 339 with a retail price of $36.23 and a wholesale price of $27.18. Got a lovely tapered band, right? Coming up to pretty wide shoulders, probably 4 millimeter shoulders with that lovely flowers on either side. With cubic zirconias, you know, set in the petals of the flower, and the nice big opening for the pearl with a cup and peg. Let's see how wide of a pearl you want to get in there. Maybe 10 millimeters would be the biggest I would go. And you could go smaller, but again, you probably don't want to have a lot of gap between the edges of these things and the pearl. So the closer you get to 10 millimeters, the better. Maybe if it's not a perfectly round pearl, you can get, you know, maybe 11 millimeters or so to get some movement in there. MTR 298 with a retail price of $12.39 and a wholesale price of $7.75. This is just a standard open shoulder ring, right, with that frame up at the top. Nice big opening there for a 9 millimeter pearl. Maybe 10 millimeter at the most. Definitely would work. Very cool. MTR 053 with a retail price of $13.73 and a wholesale price of $10.07. Again, another lovely tapered band, right? With that, looks like a flower cup sort of, you know, look up at the top with that lovely little cup and peg down in there. Probably, I was going to say 5 or 6, 5 millimeter. Yeah, probably couldn't get away much bigger than a 5 millimeter pearl in there. Maybe a 6 millimeter pearl, but it wouldn't sit all the way down on the bottom. Not that that's really an issue, as long as it there's enough glue on the post to make it most of the way up the pearl. MTR $294 with a retail price of $13.31 and a wholesale price of $8.32. There's a lovely tapered band again with that kind of shoulders. Gives you that sort of faux binding effect with the pieces where the pieces split on the gallery, holding that cup and peg up in the side there. And again, for the width of that, what are we looking at? 8 millimeters or so. So, you know, up to 8 millimeter pearl in there. You can get away with a little bit smaller, but I wouldn't go too much smaller for obvious reasons. MTR 106 for, oh, it's not obvious? Okay. For the reason that you don't want to have a gap between the edge of the pearl, you know, and the edge of this this binding thing. If there's too big of a gap, then stuff can get, you know, caught in here when you're moving or stuff, you know. So the closer, if you can get the pearl to fit inside there and both touching the edges of these things, it would be perfect size. So I think, like I said, about 8 millimeter pearl would be ideal for that. MTR 106 with a retail price of $32.31 and a wholesale price of $21.38. Very simple, elegant, sort of almost like a crossover effect, although not really, but close enough. It gives it that faux, we'll call it a faux crossover effect. I've just invented a new jewelry term. With it just a simple cup and peg there, right? Again, the giant peg, you probably have to cut that down. And opening for about a 6-7 millimeter pearl, maybe 8 millimeter. You can get it right to the edges of this thing and it would still look awesome, I think. Yeah, lovely. MTR 095 with a retail price of $22.65 and a wholesale price of $15.42. Kind of a split crossover shank, right? Up to this sort of wacky freeform pattern up at the top. I don't know, it's kind of flowery, sort of motify, I guess, kind of feels like. There's a bunch of cubic zirconias up on one side of that. And that big open cup and peg section. Oh no, so this is the display one that we take to all the shows. The cup is broken right off there, or the peg. But there's normally a nice big tall peg on there. And you can put a pearl probably as small as 6 millimeters all the way up to, you can get pretty big on that, probably 10 millimeter pearl, I think. Unlike this one, which is just the cutest thing, you'll see why in a minute. MTR 297 with a retail price of $11.62 and a wholesale price of $7.26. And this is just a lovely art. Oh, the cute little split shank, right, with just a simple heart and that cup and peg. And let's see how wide that is. So 5.5. So yeah, I would put a 6 millimeter pearl in there. You don't want it to extend too far past the edges of the cup because you don't want to completely occlude the heart, right? By sticking a big fat pearl on there so it doesn't look like anything, you know. So if you can get a 5.5 millimeter pearl, or if that's what you have, you know, great, because that would be ideal. MTR 219 with a retail price of $20.33 and a wholesale price of $14.23. This is a pretty good size band, pretty thick band. What is that, like 4 millimeters, 3 millimeters? 3, so we'll call it 4 millimeter band. Low dome band all the way up to the top with a very simple cup and peg scooped into there. And again, this super versatile. You could put a 4 millimeter pearl, you could put a 6 millimeter pearl in there. You know, probably up to about a 7 or so. MTR, where are we? $355 with a retail price of $14.26 and a wholesale price of $8.55. Got a very simple low dome band, right, all the way up to the cup. Just a very simple cup and peg at the top. And oh, see, these get bent, you know, because when we do shows, we stack the trays on top of each other, and they get bent. But anyway, just again, because it's a very simple cup, you could put anything up to about the width of that. So how wide is that? 8 millimeter, we'll call it. because you want it to be a little bit wider than that. You can get 8 millimeter pearl. You could probably put a 10 millimeter pearl, 12 millimeter even. The base is just there. If it's too big, the pearl itself won't extend all the way to the bottom of the cup. I guess you just have to find one with the right curvature to make it work. Here we have another kind of a simple one, but a good one, pretty popular one, MTR 219 with a retail price of $20.33 and a wholesale price of $14.23. Another simple kind of a low dome band, but is a little bit thicker, right? With just a simple cup on the top with another cup and peg, right? Very similar to, where is it? Oh, very similar to that one. Or wait a minute, this is the same thing. 219, MTR 219. Huh, never mind. So yeah, take your pick. We've got two versions of this in the display because you can never have enough versions of those in the thing. That one also is duplicated. MTR. That's embarrassing. 103. What else can I say about that ring? It's very familiar. 1987 is a retail price with $12.92 is a wholesale price. Very simple, elegant band, right? With some lovely sort of, I don't know, that branchy kind of effect with a bunch of cubic zirconias in there. You can call it branches. You can call it, geometric. You can call it whatever you want. And that lovely cup and peg, let's see how wide that is. So you're looking at doing good. What is that? 7.75. So yeah, 8 millimeter pearl would be ideal in there. Here is another one of the only other ones with more than one pearl setting. One MTR 101 with a retail price of $21.03 and a wholesale price of $14.43. Right. So this one of these pegs is broken off this, but normally there's a peg sticking out both sides. Right. So you put a pearl out both sides. This is soldered at the top. Right. So it's not flexible. You can't adjust it depending on your ring size. You just have to buy the thing sized for the ring that you want. You could put, a nice small couple of 4 millimeter pearls on there. I think would look awesome. You probably have to cut the pegs down because they don't have to be quite so tall, right? And again, normally there is a peg on both sides. I'm a little embarrassed by the fact that there's a broken one on screen. But anyway, forget it. You didn't see that. MTR 105. MTR 105. Retail price $22.65 and a wholesale price of $14.89. Another very simple split shank ring with nice big opening. That little X frame holds the peg on there to which you would glue a pearl or a stone. And how big is that? 6. So yeah, you could get as small as 6 millimeter all the way up to probably 8 or 10 millimeters, I think would be a good size for that. Here's another very simple MTR 292 with a retail price of $14.39 and a wholesale price of $8.99. Very simple split shank, sort of open split shank. Now wait a minute, I also feel like this is very similar to this one, only it's a little bit thinner. So this is basically the same ring, just like a redesign of that other ring that we did. And instead of just having a bar, it's got that, straight up cup and peg up at the top of that. And boy, how big of a pearl can you put in there? Let's say, yeah, 8 or 9 millimeters, I think would be about as big as you can put in there. Where am I? We've got MTR 296 with a retail price of $13.11 and a wholesale price of $8.19. Oh God, this has been completely wrecked. Very simple split shank ring. with a couple of little swirls up at the top, little flourishes up at the top with that cup and peg for good size 6.5, maybe 7 millimeter pearl. Again, that's perfectly flat. So, golly, you wouldn't want to get something too big or too small. Well, you know what? I think anything would work, actually, now that I'm looking at it. Take your pick. Here we have MTR 328 with a retail price of $19.44 and a wholesale price of $14.58. And just another, tapered band, right? Comes right up to a pretty wide band up at the shoulder, and just a very simple cup and peg up at the top of that. And you could put something, I don't know, 8 millimeters all the way up to probably 10 or so, 8 to 10 millimeters. I'm going to do this backwards this time. MTR 517 with a retail price of $23.85 and a wholesale price of $14.92, and a very simple tapered band tapering up to some open sort of hatchwork up near the top of the shoulder, and that lovely crown gallery with the cubic zirconias in the points of the crown, and the cup and peg down at the bottom. Let's see, you probably want to get a pearl about 9 millimeters would be perfect for that. You can get away with a little bit smaller, maybe 8 millimeters, right? I don't know that you can get away with a little bit bigger just because of the curvature of this this inside. It's got to be pretty close. Maybe 10 millimeters, maybe, because it's a little shallower than it is wide. But anyway, our penultimate ring, which is a word you don't get to use very often. MTR 473 with a retail price of $25.65 and a wholesale price of $16.04. So this says it's for an 8 millimeter pearl. So lovely split shank that splits into these little flat sections with that faux bead and bright cut setting, right? The cubic zirconias in there. Same with the flares up at the top, right, of that flower cup. Very lovely, very gorgeous. And a nice deep cup. Again, probably 8 millimeter pearl would be awesome in there. Maybe, yeah. Now, normally I end this on the most fancy schmancy setting I can find, but this time I'm going to end on the least fancy. MTR 136 with a retail price of $5.39 and a wholesale price of $4.09, and boop, that's it. It's just a simple what is that? I was gonna say 16 millimeter or 16 gauge, 1.4, yeah, 16 gauge band with a post up at the top to glue that pearl on. This is like bare bones of the bare bones. It's just look at the pearl on my ring. That's it. And very cool. And just, you know what, I am going to show you something else that we got recently. We've got a couple of these are like brand new, literally. They're not on the website. I haven't even photographed them yet. They're just like literally brand new. So street MTR 554 with a retail price of $12.49 and a wholesale price of $7.49. It's for they're just bezel cups, right? So these are super popular with people who are doing that epoxy resin stuff. I know I keep harping on that, but it's just a very cool product to use for this kind of thing. But also, if you have a low dome cab or something that you want to set in there, you could push these bezel wall over onto the cab, pretty easily. If it's a really tall side wall, it might be tricky because I think these are probably 2 points. So it's like probably like 1.5 millimeters deep. So if there's not a taper pretty close to the edge of the stone, you might have trouble pushing these bezel walls open. You can always glue the stone in there, although when I was growing up in jewelry school, glue was a 4-letter word. Get it? Glue, 4-letter word? Okay. Okay. So that comes in sizes as big as, what is that? 10 by 12. We also have this in 8 by 10 and 6 by 8 and 5 by 7. And finally, the smallest one we have, and this is 4 by 6. So we've got that in ovals and rounds. And I want to say, no, that's it. Yeah, just ovals and rounds. MTR 559, this 10 millimeter, right? Retail price of $12.09, wholesale price of $7.26. And this is a 10 millimeter one. We've got, and of course the prices they get lower as you go down, sort of thing, obviously, because there's less material, right? 682, 726. So we've got 8 millimeter, 6 millimeter, 5 millimeter, and is that right? 5 millimeter, yes, and 4 millimeter is the smallest one we have, right? 4 millimeter cup, bezel cups. So those will be on the website soonish, I hope. We're getting there. We're always adding stuff. We're always trying to add stuff. So that's just a little preview. Oh, you know what? I should probably show you the gold one. It's locked up. Oh, it's not. Hold on. I'll be back in a second. Tell you what, you can even watch me run over there. Oh, no, you can't. Because, oh, yeah, you can. So, people have been asking us to get our some of our settings in 14 karat gold or just gold in general. And we have a bunch of our regular settings, just like the regular basket settings in a couple of different shapes, some squares and rounds and ovals and things. And it's supposed to get the band on those bezels textured. I mean, I'm obviously, we're the factory, so we can do anything, right? The thing is, I think the bezel cups themselves are stamped, the rings are cast, and then they're soldered together. So if we did it with texture on the outside of the bezels, we would have to do that as a casting, and so it would be whatever the custom thing is. But the answer is, when the question starts with, is it possible, as long as it's talking about something jewelry related that's not bigger than like 60 millimeters or so, the answer is pretty much always yes. We can do whatever. It's just a function of, things like budgets and physics are the only limiting factors. So yes, Andrea is the short answer. We can do that. If you wanted to, though, you could probably... No, I'm not going to go there. I was going to say you could probably text them yourself. Anyway, so the MTR 382 is one of our most popular rings, I think. Probably the most popular ring. So we cast some in 14 karat gold. And these are them, right? It's just a regular split shank ring with a very simple 8 by 10 millimeter basket. Yeah. And I think, I don't want to guess. 8 by 10 is a really standard size cab. You see that really often. And yeah, so I don't know. This is our first gold ring. I know that we have another shipment of new findings coming, probably supposed to be here this week, I think. We'll see, this week or early next week, that has a bunch more gold rings in there. So you can have a look at these. This one is a size 8, and the price of this is retail is $169.20, and the wholesale price is $144. And and obviously, unlike the silver rings where we can be a little more generous with the pricing on the bigger ones. On these ones, they're priced. Every size is a different price, right? So, a size 7 will be a little bit less than that. A size 6 a little bit less than that because you're calculating, of course, every tenth of a percentage of the gold makes a difference to the price. So it's a little different when casting silver. Also, the silver version of this, the MTR 382, the basket is a little beefier, right? When we're doing with gold, also the inside isn't quite as hollow a little bit, right? So when you're doing silver, right, and you're doing the wax blanks for silver, and this is something that any jeweler will tell you, you can be a lot, you can take a lot of shortcuts as far as cleaning up the insides and stuff. And not that they're rough or dirty or anything like that, but carving out these areas, right, to remove material is always a tricky affair. So most people don't take the time doing it when you're working with sterling silver because it's relatively inexpensive material to work with. But when you're working with gold, it has to be really, really, really well defined. So all of those edges. So it's another, kind of a nice point. Somebody asked me, I like this pendant that you have, but I want it in gold thing. And I tried to explain that, okay, well, we would have to redesign it from scratch. And it was kind of a difficult, conversation because they couldn't understand why don't you just use the mold you have for the silver one and say, okay, well, theoretically we could do that, but it'll be way more expensive than it would be if we would just redesign it from scratch, not taking those shortcuts that we would normally do, like hollowing out, so a little bit more of the band than we do on the silver ones. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense. Or I'm just showing all the tricks of the jewelry business that people don't tell you, those dirty tricks that most sellers aren't willing to share with their customers. We'll tell you everything. Anyway, so this lovely split shank ring, we have this 14 karat gold, and as well as a bunch of basket settings that obviously weren't available when I was doing those. So maybe I'll quickly do the gold at the beginning of next week's section, because we'll probably have a bunch more rings, although they won't be on the website yet. Well, we'll get them up as quickly as we can because they're gold. We want them up because we're expanding our gold stuff all the time. Anyway, God, I love that ring. Very simple, very elegant, and a great seller. So that's it. Oh gosh, what did I do? Here I am. I'm here. So that's it. We did good. I'm actually 6 minutes early. First time, I think, as you see, after 50 episodes, I'm finally getting it down to under an hour. Of course, it's not because I'm going to end up blabbing on for the next 6 minutes thing or stuff. No, you know what? I'm not. I'm just going to say thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the trip through the rings. We're done with the rings. We'll do the earrings, start the earrings next week. I'll do a couple of gold things first because I think that'll be fun. But thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, like Andrea did, you can hit us up here or hit us up on the website. We have that chat feature that we try to look at all 24 hours. I don't answer those things when I'm sleeping. I'm just saying, I don't look at those things when I'm sleeping. So take care of yourself. Take care of your mental health. Take care of the planet. Get vaccinated. As soon as you can. We can get this world started again. Love to start doing shows again. We're looking at maybe the fall starting up again with shows, which would be awesome. I'm okay foregoing the shows during the summer because some of them get super stupid hot because some of the venues are not nicely air-conditioned convention centers. They're smaller venues, which we love because we like the interpersonal relationships with our customers are paramount importance to us and we love you all, and we will see you again next week for the 51st episode. I hope I get this. I really hope this was the 50th because I'll feel like a real dummy if I got this wrong. So yes, so take care of yourself, take care of the planet, all that stuff, blah blah blah. We will see you next week. Keep working, keep making stuff, keep those creative juices flowing. This is the best way to get through something like a pandemic where you're stuck at home, is to just get those neurons firing, those pathways, new pathways forming, those kinetic pathways in your brain, right? Always keep forming new ones. Stave off Alzheimer's, whatever. And we will see you next week on the Sylvia Findings live stream. All right, take care. Bye-bye.